Guys, welcome to Vesna TV. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today is a mega video, so let's get going on some Valentine's DIYs. My husband got some scrap pieces of wood from work. It was actually from like packaging of a machine or something, and they were going to go in the garbage, and I told him anytime little scrap pieces of wood they get and they're supposed to go in the garbage, to bring them all home. He loves me for collecting garbage, but whatever. I can make beautiful little signs and tray decor and all sorts of things for our house, so it's great when it's free. So I'm just using the decorative glaze from Rust-Oleum, and I'm using it as a stain. I love using these glazes and wax. If you do Annie Sloan, I love the dark waxes for stains. So that's what I'm using here, and I'm using a cloth and I'm applying it with that cloth liberally all over the sign, and then if I get too much I just kind of wipe it off. So wipe on, wipe off type of thing. And I wound up doing it on both sides in case I wanted to use it in a tray that had both sides visible, and then that way it's covered. And then if I don't wind up using it like that, I may wind up doing like a spring sign as well. I always like to do double-sided signs. Just saves on how much wood you're buying and how much supplies you're spending. So then once it dries off, I use my Cricut to make this cute little sign. It's just a bunch of arrows with some hearts and Be Mine at the bottom. I believe I downloaded it. I can link the link, put the link below. It was a free download from Pinterest that I found. And I'm just putting some white acrylic paint on it. Sometimes I like to dab, sometimes I like to use my brushes. Today I'm using a brush, and I do wind up doing 2 coats of this just because I find the white acrylic paint doesn't always cover the best, and I didn't use my chalk paint this time. So if you don't have a Cricut or a cutting machine, I am almost positive that you could find stencils at the Dollar Tree or something like that of arrows, and then you just add the little hearts in them. Easy peasy. I'm sure you can find them. I never looked because I have the Cricut, so I use that, but I'm sure you could find them. For the vinyl, I'm using a vinyl that I bought on Amazon. It seems to have paid for itself. It was a little bit more expensive than the shelf liner. You can use shelf liner from the Dollar Tree. I find that the clear one works the best. Any other ones, I haven't had success with them. I know other people have. I personally haven't. I find that the clear one has a little bit more stretch to it, but this one works really well. It was the cheapest option on Amazon, so I've used this until I've been buying the clear shelf liner as I see it, when I see it at the Dollar Tree, but I have had this, like I said, for a little while now, and I've been using this one. So once you do your 2 coats and you let it dry all the way, then you can remove your vinyl and you get a cute little farmhouse sign that you can use in any of your decor for Valentine's Day. So here it is all finished. I think it turned out really cute. It has a very farmhousey vibe to it, very subtle Valentine's Day decor, which is nice if you don't want it to scream Valentine's Day. Stock that I had painted for something else, and I'm going to be hot gluing it on the inside here, and I'm doing that because I want to not have such a big hole inside of the box, so it kind of gives the illusion of a stack of books. So after I attach that, I just use some hot glue to attach it. After I attach that in there, I wind up then painting this little crate in the Tutti Frutti pink. It's a really kind of like a hot pink, so if you're not into super bright and pink Valentine's Day decor, you may not like this, but if you love that kind of stuff, this is really, really bright, and it just, to me, it screams a Valentine's Day color. So I'm going to paint that out. Really easy DIY. Paint it out, and I'll be attaching a bow around it and writing a little saying. So I'm actually painting out the entire box, not just one side of it. Now the top, because it has like the little crate form like right here, it doesn't look like boxes. I will be putting a bow and you won't see the top ever where I'm going to be placing it. But if you didn't want that showing, you could put another piece of cardstock there and paint it out pink, just hot glue it onto the top so that it looks like it's a book and it's flat. But I didn't do it for this one just because I knew that it wouldn't be showing, so it wasn't a big deal to me. I don't put anything at the bottom, I leave it open. Again, if you wanted to, you could, but I wanted this to be a really simple DIY for you guys. And you only have to do one coat of the pink because that box is a lighter color, so there's nice coverage. So once that has dried, then if you wanted to do like a little saying like I'm doing, and I'm just saying be my Valentine, I'm using cursive writing, just freehanding writing it. I wasn't 100% happy with the way it turned out, but I was okay with it, so I left it. If I redo this DIY for next year, I might use my Cricut, but I find with the Cricut, when it's really small writing, I can't ever make it look really clean. You could, if you have at your Dollar Tree or dollar store, if you have the small little letters, you could write those in, or if you have a stencil with small little letters, you could use that. But I just wrote Be My Valentine on it, and I used a silver marker, and then I went over top with a black, so it kind of has a little bit of depth. Then I'm using this bow. I keep on calling it a bow. It's not a bow, it's a ribbon. I'm using the heart ribbon and the little red pickup truck ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm combining them to make a nice bow at the top. So what I did was I wrapped the box around with the ribbon, and then I hot glued a bow. And that's all there is to this DIY. Oh, one more thing, I just forgot that I did this as well. I just used this black Sharpie just to give the illusion of there being 3 books on the sides. Again, you don't have to do this. I just wanted a little bit of extra in there kind of going around. And that's it. So here's what it looks like all finished with the writing with the 2 colors and all displayed. I think it's really cute. It's a nice little cute Valentine's. For the last DIY, I picked up this sign at the Dollar Tree. It wasn't in the Valentine section, it was just in the home decor section, and I loved it because it had that galvanized metal in the back and this cute little heart. So what I'm going to do is remove this heart. I thought it was hot glued on there, so I was trying to rip it off, but it's actually screwed in. So I've got this cute little screwdriver set that I got as like a swag gift from somewhere, but it's a little bit too big, so I wound up using a different one. But you just have to unscrew it and remove that heart. Really easy to do. I'm so glad that it was screwed in and not hot glued, because I think sometimes with the glue you might break it as you're trying to take it off. This is an incredibly easy DIY because I'm just basically redoing what the Dollar Tree already made. So I've taken this heart off and I've used sandpaper to sand off the This Is Us because I wasn't particularly happy with the way it looked. And I'm using my Rust-Oleum decorative glaze just to stain this heart a little bit of a darker color. You could use acrylic paint and make your own kind of stain. I've talked about this in several videos. The best one to watch is the stocking video from in my Christmas playlist, because that's where I used paint to stain wood. But I'm using this decorative glaze to stain it, and I'm just putting it right back on there, screwing it back on, and then to make it, give it a little bit of a pop of Valentine's, I'm just going to add a little bit of ribbon. You don't even have to add the ribbon. The ribbon is very optional. I just thought it would give it a more of a Valentine's Day vibe, but again, you don't have to add it. So once I attach the heart back, the ribbon that I'm using is the burlap heart ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And again, I'm going to be hot gluing a bow together. And then I'll just hot glue this to the galvanized tray part just to add a little bit of a bow and a little bit of Valentine's flair. And that's all there is to this DIY. This was basically a makeover, and I wanted to show you guys this because you don't have to have, you know, an incredible amount of tools or anything like that to do it, to make some of the Dollar Tree decor look that much more high-end. This was from the Dollar Tree, but I'm pretty sure if you went to Marshall's, you can find something very similar to this without the This Is Us. I think that the This Is Us made it look a little bit cheaper, but by adding a darker stain, and you could still put something back, a saying back on there, but maybe using a different font if you have a Cricut. But I just wanted to show you how you can kind of make over something from the Dollar Tree with very little supplies and make it look so much better than it did originally. So here's what it is all finished. So here it is all finished. I think it's really cute and it'll fit perfectly with my decor. So for this first DIY, I'm going to be souping up this little gnome from the Dollar Tree. If you've watched some of my Christmas DIYs, you've seen that I love gnomes. So I decided that making a Valentine's Day one would be awesome too. So I'm going to start off by gently removing this heart that he's holding. I will be putting that right back, so as I take it off, I'm being very careful not to wreck the top of it. And I really thought this guy was cute, so I am keeping him. I'm adding a little bit of stuff to him to make him look a lot cuter. So really simple DIY. It's more like an updo, I guess. I'm going to be using this faux fur that I got. It was just like a ribbon of fur that I got from the dollar store. And I'm going to be I'm going to be cutting it up so that I will use it as his beard and his mustache. And then I will be hot gluing it to his beard and his mustache. And I'm just cutting it into pieces to make the mustache show and have it be a little bit different. Then I'm cutting it from the back when I see that it's hanging off too much. And I will be putting that heart and his little hands back. So I kind of use that as my guide. And for his nose, although the nose is really cute, I wanted to do a round little bead, but I didn't have the big ones. I only had the small ones and it didn't look right. So I decided to use one of the wood sticker hearts from the Dollar Tree, and I will be hot gluing that to the nose once I put his hands in his little heart back. And the heart was already pink. It came in like a set of, you can see right there, it came in like a set of different colored and different size hearts. So I'm just gluing it on. It was already painted pink, so I didn't need to do anything with that. And then it also came with this little heart and arrow, and I broke it as I was ripping it off. So I'm just hot gluing it back together and putting it on there. But because it was red, I wanted to add a little bit of pink to it. So I painted it out in just the cotton candy pink. I just put a light layer of it on top. Unfortunately, I missed myself recording myself doing that, but here is the finished product. He is such a cute looking little gnome, and I also wound up putting the fur on the little end of the gnome. So I put a heart with a little bit of fur on it at the end of the hat, and he turned out really, really cute. I love him. He just looks so much more done up than just the gnome sign on its own, and it'll look great in my decor. Let me know what you think. So this is another really simple and inexpensive Dollar Tree DIY. I'm just using one of these crates from the Dollar Tree. They're the little mini crates, and I am going to be painting it in the Fuchsia Fun and the Cotton Candy. I'm only doing one layer of the pink, and once I paint it out, I'm going to be adding some Hershey's Kisses. But before I add the Hershey's Kisses, I had a little bit of this, I think it's tulle. It's like the mesh ribbon. I had some leftover pink mesh ribbon that I'm just going to be putting in here as like a little bed for the Hershey's Kisses. You don't have to do that. You can just put the Hershey's Kisses in there, but I thought it would just be a pretty little addition to it. And I think you can get them probably at the Dollar Tree. I never actually looked. I don't know where it came from. I've had it for many, many years. So if you can find it, great. If not, you could even use a piece of felt, or you could use a white ribbon or anything, or you don't have to use anything at all. It's totally up to you. And I'm just mixing them together. I just wanted kind of a less scream in your face pink, But you'll see even after I paint it, I wind up muting it down a little bit more. After doing a few DIYs in these bright pink colors, although I love them, I am thinking that I need to just use the cotton candy pink because these ones are a little bit too pink for my liking. Maybe for little accent pieces, but for bigger pieces, they're just very, very pink. If you like pink, they're beautiful, and I do like pink, but it's just a little bit too much for me. Because it was too much, I added a little bit of this white acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just basically dry brushing on a little bit of white onto the sides, like over the whole crate basically. And I find that that mutes it and gives me that kind of more rustic look too, which if you've watched any of my other videos, you can see that I kind of lean towards that. While that's drying, I use my Cricut to cut out a heart, and I use the draw function to have the Cricut write kisses on the heart, and I'm using the lemon script. And then I will glue that little heart onto these, and I'll show you in a second. You can kind of see it in the corner there. These heart-shaped little sticks that I got at the Dollar Tree as well. They're the ones that you usually find like a bouquet of flowers or whatever. But I found them at the Dollar Tree, and I used a few for my other projects, and then I'm using it for this one. So I just glue it onto here, and I stick that in as a little sign. So I just wanted to show you the final product, and then I also want to show you what I added to it. So the final product is here, and although it's cute and I do like it, I still feel like that crate needs something. So I go ahead and I add these 2 wood stickers from the Dollar Tree, and I think that completes the look. So this little crate will likely go on one of my trays, and it'll be just like a little Valentine's Day display, and they're just cute enough that they can go either on a tiered tray or on a regular tray. They're not too big. And on to the next DIY. I'm going to be measuring out little hearts that I'm cutting out of fabric. This pink fabric I had on hand, and then the other pink fabric was from the Dollar Tree in a pack of felts. So you could use either or. If you have some fabric on hand that's pink or whatever color, you can use it. I just wanted to show you 2 different ones. And you need 2 hearts from each piece of fabric. And you're going to be, I'm using this little wood shape from the Dollar Tree to measure how big I want my hearts to be and to get the shape of the heart. If you have a Cricut, you can use your Cricut if you have like the fabric mat and all that stuff. I don't have the fabric mat, and I'm not sure if I can cut. I have the Explorer Air. I think I read that you can cut fabric with it if you have the fabric mat, but I don't have a fabric mat, and I probably don't have the right blade for it either. I just have whatever the basic blades that came with my Cricut. So I'm using my hot glue to glue the sides of the heart, and I'm just leaving the top open so I can stuff it with some. Now you can use stuffing. I've been cheating. I've been using the little spider webs from Halloween that the stretchy ones that you can buy to create cobwebs around. So I've been using that to stuff little mini pieces because it's something I have on hand and I don't have to buy more. And I do this for both hearts. I am using these garden picks from the Dollar Tree. I think these are from Dollarama, but you can buy them at the Dollar Tree as well. And I am using 5 of them to create a mini sign. I have seen at the dollar store that they have like mini skids or pallets. You could use that for this definitely. I didn't see them, so I'm making kind of my own little picture here. And I'm just measuring out how long they are because I'm going to be cutting them in half. So I'm cutting off the little spiky pieces, and then I'm measuring half from there, and I'm going to cut it all in half and put it all together. And you will need, on top of this, you will need another few sticks for the sides. I'm using this little cutting tool that I saw a few YouTubers use, and I'm liking it for these little mini wood projects. So it is very handy, and I'm not wrecking my scissors by using this. Once I have them cut, I'm sizing it out to see how I'm going to be using the hearts in there. And I'm just taking my 2 hearts and kind of positioning them on and seeing how many I wind up using. I didn't wind up using all of them, so you could get away with using 4 garden picks for the picture part and then another 2 for the sides, but I will save these and I'll be able to use them for another project. And originally I thought I would glue them together and then glue them onto the sides, but then I thought, well, it's much easier to just glue them to the sides of each of the sticks, and that's what I wind up doing. And I want the stick part to be like the side part to be at the front. You'll see what I mean. So it kind of looks like a ladder, so I'm gluing it to the back essentially. That's why I'm not being too careful about how long they are from one another, because you won't be able to see it as long as they are the same length from one side to the other. And then once you get one side glued, the other side is really easy because you just have to pop it on there of the whole piece. I am really loving this decorative glaze from Rust-Oleum. It's in the Java. So I'm going to be staining this piece in that glaze. And I'm putting kind of 2 layers of the glaze just to make it a bit darker. If you've seen my last few projects, you'll see that I use this quite a bit, and it's really going a long way. Previous to this, I was using the Annie Sloan dark wax and black wax. I still love those, but this is what I wanted to try out. It's a little bit cheaper, and I wanted to see how it was to work with it, and it's really easy to work with, so it might be my other go-to for decorative waxes. So once I stain this, then I just hot glue my little hearts and I add a little string on top so you can hang it if you wanted to. And again, another cute little Valentine's Day DIY. Very inexpensive to make. This one cost, well, under $2 because there's a whole pack of felt that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I used half of one. So even if I did 2 hearts, it would be half, because it was like a quarter of one actually that I used. So you would be able to save the felt for others. So it's about $1 for this DIY, which is fantastic. And again, I'm just using hot glue to hot glue these hearts on, nothing fancy. And the string that I'm using, it's just jute rope that I had left over from a different project, and you don't even have to add that. You could just have it, you know, sit up against a wall. I just wanted to do that. And if you wanted the sign to be vertical, you could put the hearts vertically. It would kind of be the same thing, just depending on where you want to use it for your decor. I wanted a bit of height in case I use it in my trays. So before I show you my completed version, as I was making this, my son came in asking, and he's 5, asking if he could make one too. And so I gave him some colored popsicle sticks and I made a mini heart, and I hot glued everything for him, and then he just glued the heart on, and it was very cute because he was very proud of it. So that will go on a tray definitely, and here is my piece. So here it is, all finished. Again, another cute DIY. Love it, love it, love it. Let me know which one was your favorite. If you haven't subscribed, I am using this palette heart from the Dollar Tree. I've removed the tags, and I'm going to be painting each one of the lines a different color. So the first one I'm doing is this one, and I'm painting it in the linen white from Rust-Oleum chalk paint. You can use acrylic paint. I just decided, because I have lots of this white paint, to use the white paint. Once that dries, I go on to my next color, and for the next color I'm using the cotton candy pink from the Dollar Tree as well, and I'm going to be doing the top part of the heart in that color. Then the next line, after I paint this, I'm going to be doing in kind of like a brown stain, but what I'm doing is making my own stain by using this cashmere paint, just a very little of it, and just very lightly spreading it on the wood. And then I'm going to take a baby wipe and I'm just going to rub off the extra paint, and that'll give it kind of like a very subtle brown, almost stain looking paint. And when you're rubbing it off with a baby wipe, try to keep it like the same as the grain, and that'll help with keeping it looking like a stain. And then the last one that I'm doing is I'm mixing the cotton candy pink with a little bit of white and then lightly putting it on and then using that same baby wipe and rubbing off extra paint. And I was trying to figure out which one of these galvanized steel words I'm going to use. They were a 3-pack from the Dollar Tree, and I've decided to go with the XOXO because if you watched my previous video, I did a whole bunch of love signs, so this one I wanted to be a little bit different. So you just hot glue it on. You want to make sure that your hot glue is nice and hot. The first time I tried to put it on, it wasn't quite hot enough, so it didn't stick. But once you get it nice and hot, it'll stick. And then I wanted to put something around the heart to be able to hang it if I decided to hang it. So I'm just using some jute rope, but I had to make it a little bit thinner because it was quite thick. But if you've had these jute ropes before, they're also from the Dollar Tree, you can separate them. So I separated them and took off one layer of the rope. And then I tied it at the back and hot glued it at the back. And that's all there is to the heart. It was a very simple DIY. You needed basically 3 different colors of paints, that XOXO sign and this heart and a little bit of rope, but you could also use the rope that came with the paint. And I think it turned out really, really beautifully. So here's the finished piece. For this DIY, you're going to need several pieces. You're going to need the crates from the Dollar Tree, so I'm just reusing ones that I had from a different project and I've removed the sides. You're going to need some wood blocks, some pink paints, these Dollar Tree trailers. I had the Valentine's nut ones, so I used those ones, some ribbon and some florals, all from the Dollar Tree. And then if you have just like a little piece, I have it from one of the Dollar Tree Dollar Tree Christmas trees, the bottom part of it. So if you have that, something like that. So to begin, I'm going to be painting out this trailer, and I'm not actually painting it in full. What I'm doing is I'm putting a coat of the fuchsia pink paint over top of it, and then I'll be rubbing it off with some baby wipes. And I'm doing this just to mute a little bit of the sparkles and the redness and give it a little bit of a reddish pink tint. I really like these, even the way they were painted, and I like Follow Your Heart. I just want it to be, didn't want it to be quite so red. I wanted to be more pinkish. If you didn't want to make it a Valentine's Day one, this is an easy project that you could make. Spring, Christmas, Halloween, any kind. These pickup truck and trailers are really popular right now, so even if you find them and they're not the right season, you can always paint them out and make them what you want. And I'm doing the same thing with these crates. So like I said, I've removed the sides and I'm going to glue this side back onto one of the crates just because I couldn't get it to be nice and even, and I didn't want it to be pieces of wood and gunk falling off. I had created a DIY before, but it fell apart. I had dropped it on the floor and then it fell apart and I never put it back together. So I thought I could reuse these from there, and then that way they'll still have some purpose. And it doesn't cost me anything. So I'm going to paint them out in the pink, the same fuchsia pink that I painted the truck with, the trailer with, and then I'm going to be hot gluing them together. So what I'm doing is I'm hot gluing the 2 pieces together, but as you can see at the bottom, when I was taking off the sides, I broke a piece of it off, so I'm gonna hot glue that to the bottom as well. If you were just putting these together like this and weren't putting anything on the sides, then you might want to put something on the side or at the bottom to hold them together better. But because I'm going to be putting the trailer on each side of these, it doesn't matter if you put an extra thing to hold it together, because the trailer part will hold them together. It'll act as that extra piece of wood. So I realized after I did this that I didn't do it the same length, so make sure that you measure it out properly so that way you don't have to take it off and do it twice. You just want to sit it down and make sure that it's not wobbly or anything like that. So as you can see, I'm checking it there and then I take it apart. So again, just make sure you take a stick or something to measure to make sure that you're putting them on the same distance and same height. So after I glue them together, if you've watched my other videos, you know that I don't waste anything. So I use one of the leftover pieces from the side to give it height on one side of the trailer. And then on the other side, I use, now you can use either the jumbo popsicle sticks or these garden picks, which I got. I think these ones I got at Dollarama, but they have them at the Dollar Tree too. I've gotten them at both places. And you just cut them to size, and I used 5 of them just to kind of give it an illusion of it being closed on one side. If you wanted, you could put it on both sides. The way I was going to be having this positioned, you won't see the one side, so I was okay with it being this way. And I know anywhere I put it, it'll always be angled so you can't see the back. And then you just hot glue it all together, and then you paint it out in the color of your choice. I decided for these to use the cotton candy pink, not the fuchsia, only because I wanted it to be a little bit lighter than the front. So the reason I'm using that little part from the Christmas tree, the base, is because I wanted it to look like a little hitch for the trailer. You don't need that. I just wanted that little extra part. So I'm measuring out to see where I want to put it. It's not quite long enough so you can't see it. So I was going to hot glue it. It didn't work out too well. So I put hot glue and permanent glue, the E6000, and I wound up having them stick together. The hot glue probably isn't the best option to stick these two together, but I wanted the quickness and it wasn't working for me. So like I said, I used the E6000 and that worked, and I just let it sit for overnight actually for it to dry. And then I glued that little piece of wood to the trailer, and that's all there was to that. Then I wanted to add some steps to the trailer. So what I did was I used the rest of the wood blocks to create some steps, and I glued the bottom step to the top step and like made them look like steps, so I had it out a little bit. And then I'm going to do a little bit of an awning, so I'm using another wooden block and the leftover pieces from those garden picks for the awning, and then I'll hot glue that ribbon to that wooden piece. And I like this ribbon because it has the little wire things on the side, so you can kind of curl it a little bit if you wanted to. And I just use hot glue for all of this. Once that was done, I just filled it in with some florals and that little heart from the Dollar Tree. Just any kind of picks that you can find. And then here's the finished product. I think it's really, really cute. It's a nice little addition for my Valentine's Day decor. These wood letters and this wood heart from the Dollar Tree. And I want to give them the galvanized look. So they're wood, but I want them to look like steel. So to achieve this look, I'm using these 3 paints plus a white acrylic paint. So I'm using some black acrylic paint, some brown acrylic paint, and some dark blue acrylic paint. And what I do is I put all of these paints on a little small plate, and then I just dab on each color on its own. You'll see what I mean by that. I've made many galvanized look things before on my video and on my channel, so feel free to check those out. Those will be more in-depth tutorials, but I thought this one would be a really neat look for this vase. And I'm also using some silver as well, so blue, silver, black, brown, and dark and white. So depending on the project, sometimes I paint out the project first in a different color, and sometimes I just dab it on. For this one, I was just dabbing everything on because that brown was kind of a look that I thought I could blend in together with these letters to achieve what I wanted, so I did not paint the letters. Now I wanted to attach these letters to a sign, and I want it to be a vertical sign that's quite tall that I could either put on my fireplace or in a corner in my hallway. I haven't decided exactly where I'll be putting it, but I just wanted a tall vertical sign. So when I saw this sign at the Dollar Tree, this love sign, I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a cute sign. I thought maybe I could keep the barn board on the back and that the letters would cover the red fully, but unfortunately they're a little bit too thick for the letters that I'm using. So I'm just going to remove the burlap heart and paint over the sign, and I'm going to use my chalked linen white paint only because I need quite a bit of paint and I only have that small little bottle of the acrylic paint. And I'm saving this heart, that's why I'm taking it out gently, and then I just peel off the excess of this cardboard slash pressboard, whatever it is that's glued on here, just so that I can have a nice even finish. And I like that this sign has the little slits in it, so it makes it look like barn board even more, which I love. So I do 2 coats of the white and it still shows, the red still kind of comes through, but because I'm putting those letters on top and I'm going to be distressing it, I'm okay with a little bit of that red showing, and you'll see what I mean after. It just gives it that distressed look, which I love. If you really don't like the red coming through and really want it to be covered fully, I would paint the sign black. Then I would paint white over top of it and then sand it down so you have that distressed look coming through. But what I'm doing is I painted it white and then I'm just adding this black acrylic paint. It's in this cup because I had used it for something else and then saved it this way. And I'm adding a little bit of the white just to cover in some of those spots where I did too much and to give it a more, like, I wanted almost like a dirty old sign look, if that makes any sense. I'm very technical in my terms. But anyway, you'll see the finished product eventually. So I'm just dabbing it on. I'm not too worried about dry brushing because there isn't much paint left in here, so I'm not caking on a lot of paint. If you have fresh paint, I would dab off the excess so you kind of do like a dry brushing. Then I just use hot glue to attach the letters, the LOVE. And for the O, I'm not using an O, I'm using a wooden heart like I showed you at the beginning. And then I am just painting that heart out in the cotton candy pink, and I'll be attaching that as well to the sign. And that's all there is to this sign. It's really, really simple, very inexpensive. It was definitely $1, $2, $3, $4 for the sign. $5 for the entire sign plus paint, but most of us have some white and black paint and blue paint on hand. But anyway, just for the materials other than the paint, it was about $5. So a cheap sign to make, and I've seen these at Marshall's and places like that. They go for 30, 40 bucks. So really cute. Love the way it turned out. Gives it that distressed look because I used that combination of the white and black. So love it. So on to my decks DIY. But if you guys haven't been to my channel before, my name is Vesna and I do all things DIY on a budget. So if that's the kind of stuff you like, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave me a comment below. So for the next sign, I'm going to be using this heart from the Dollar Tree as well. I really liked this heart. I liked the shape of it. I love the stripes in it, but I didn't love that it was a little bit shiny. I wanted it to be a little bit kind of toned down. So I'm going to tone it down myself. So this sign is even cheaper and even easier to make. So what I'm doing is I'm gently removing this love and taking care not to rip anything off because then you'll have to sand it down. And then I'm following the exact lines of this heart and I'm painting it out in some muted colors. So I'm sanding down the paint and the shininess a little bit so it has that distressed look, because like I said, it was a little bit too shiny, and sometimes when you try to paint that shiny stuff too, it just doesn't stick the best, and then you just get another shiny, just a different shiny look. So this is why I'm sanding it down. But like I said, be very careful when you take that love off, because if you rip off the painted part, then you'll have to repaint the whole thing. So I wanted this to be easy. And that love sign wasn't on there very, like it just had a few dabs of hot glue. So I thought I was going to use some painter's tape, but then I decided I'm just going to freehand do this. And I'm using the Cotton Candy Pink. And I'm just following the lines along here. And as you can see, I didn't do a super heavy coat of the pink. I just did a fairly light coat, and now I'm doing kind of a dry brushing of black over top of the white parts. And I did not clean my brush, so it still has a little bit of the pink, so it's more like a dry brush blackish pink on there. And then I'll be attaching the love sign back to it with some hot glue and attaching some rope which came with the sign, like the little string. And I'm just putting it right back in and then hot gluing it at the back. So like I said, it was $1 for this project and it turned out amazing. Like I said, that it totally has that rustic farmhouse look that I really, really love. I don't know if you guys are into signs, but this is my thing probably in the last year and a half. I love making signs, and I never really used to do Valentine's Day, and I'm flooded with ideas this year, so maybe it's the lockdown. But anyway, I love how this turned out, and let me know if you guys do Valentine's decor and if you're loving signs like I am. Leave me a comment below. But anyway, here's the finished piece. So my plan is to put out all the Valentine's Day stuff today. I've already started a little bit, but anyway, here it is, and I'll show you. You can head on over to my home channel and you can see where I displayed all of these. The video will likely be up in the next week, if not before then. But I'll post it on my community. Anyway, off to the next love sign. So this next DIY was inspired by this love sign. I bought this at the Dollar Tree, and I decided that it would go really good on this sign. This is my Let's Snuggle winter sign, and I thought it could be a two-sided sign. If you've ever watched my channel, you know I like to have two-sided signs. I save on the wood and I save on the space too, because it tends to be a lot of stuff. So again, another easy DIY. What I did was I'm staining this sign using my Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in Java. And I'm using it as stain. It dries really quick. It's really easy to put on. I just take a rag and I just rub it into the wood. I try to kind of go with the grain, but you'll see that in spots I just kind of go all around. Try to get it into all of the grooves, and you basically apply as much as you want, depending on how dark you want the piece of wood to be. I also spray painted that love sign in a white paint. I just used it was just a white spray paint that we had, I think the Rona brand or something like that. And that's really it. Then I just attached the love sign to the wood. So what I did was I just measured out from each side so that the sign would go in the middle, and then I attached screws to it, and basically it's kind of hanging off of them. I'm just checking to make sure it doesn't come off. The screws aren't the same size as the holes. They're a little bit smaller, but I had them stick out a little bit so that the sign would hang on them and not fall off. Then I wanted to cover the screws a little bit, so I used some of my leftover faux boxwood that I had from the summer, and I literally just used 2 little springs I just cut off 2 little pieces on each side, and 2 or 3 little pieces, one I think I did 3, the other one I did 2, and I just hot glued them on just to cover the screws. They were kind of fumbly to hot glue on just because if you don't get the leaf, the little like stick part, it's too hard to hot glue that on. So I played around with it a little bit, and some of it I kind of tucked in under the love sign and then hot glued it, but it worked out. And then I attached 2 wooden hearts from the Dollar Tree. They were in like a pack of 10, and they had love on one side and they were just blank on the other. So what I did was I painted them out in the cotton candy pink, and I hot glued them onto the sign itself. I just thought it gave the sign that subtle Valentine's Farmhouse rustic look that as I've already said, that I love. And this sign was, again, $2 to make. The wood itself was free because it was a scrap piece of wood that we had. I was trying to decide whether I would do the burlap heart or if I would do 2 pink hearts, and I went with the pink hearts. And here it is, all finished. Again, another easy DIY. So on to the final DIY. So this next love sign is, I got this either at the Dollar Tree or Dollarama. I think it was the Dollar Tree, not last year, but the year before, and I just never did anything with it. So I'm just going to paint it out white, and I'm using the Rust-Oleum chalked linen white paint to do this. I'm only doing 1 coat of the white because I'm going to be giving this a galvanized steel look like I did with the first sign. So it doesn't need to have full coverage. I just wanted it to be covered in the white, like as a base coat. So again, I'm using a combination of the silver, the blue, the black, the brown, and the white paint. And like I said, I put them on a plate and I just use them as I need it, like as I'm dabbing on. I don't really have a set, you have to do this first and that second. I basically kind of put a little bit of this, and then I think, oh, it needs some blue, then I put blue, then it needs black, white, and I just keep on going until I achieve the look that I'm going for. I just wanted to show you what it looks like if you paint it and if you don't paint it before. And to me, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but to some people it might, so you can kind of look and see which one you like better. As you can see, I dabbed on the black first, and then I went with the blue and the silver and the other colors. I left the O blank because the O I'm going to be putting some moss on, so it's green. The moss that I'm using for the O is actually this moss ribbon that I got at the Dollar Tree. I've only ever seen it once. I haven't seen it since then, and I kind of like it. It's supposed to stick on its own, but it wasn't really sticking too much, so I just put some hot glue and I cut it to size. I don't ever waste anything, so I wound up using those little pieces that I cut off as well. And again, another really simple $2 DIY, really and easy to make, inexpensive, and I think it, again, that farmhouse rustic look, beautiful love sign. So if you guys can let me know which love sign you guys loved, that would be great. I can't pick a favorite. If I had to, it would probably be this one and the very first one, but I love all of them equally. They all have a special place that I kind of have an idea of where I'll put in my home, and they'll look really nice with my rustic farmhouse kind of taste that I have. I did do some really pink DIY, so there'll be like pops of those in other places. Like I said, check that out on the home channel. This was the inspiration piece. I really love this piece, but $79 is a lot. This is slightly bigger than mine. This is about 12 inches, and mine is about 8 inches wide and 6 inches tall, and mine is about 4 inches tall. But did not come anywhere close to $79. Mine was about $1. So what I'm using is one of these wood square planks. It is from the Dollar Tree and they're a pack of 6 and I'm only using one. And then I'm using a few of the tumbling blocks as my frame around the piece, and some espresso brown paint and some black acrylic paint. And you will need something to cut these wooden blocks. I have a mini miter saw, which I'm sure you've seen me use in my other projects. And you will need some hot glue and some vinyl, which I also got from the Dollar Tree for $1 a roll, and you only need a little bit. So what I start doing is I start painting out these blocks with the brown, and I'm doing all of the sides. Then I will go over, once it dries, I will go over it with some black. So I start off with the brown and then I move on to the black. And then I use a baby wipe to just kind of work it in. The wood plank itself, I just paint with black acrylic paint and I just do one layer. Once it all dries, I go ahead and I just make my border all around the wood plank. And I am doing this on the outside rather than over top. Usually I like to do things over top, but this one I wanted it to look like it was in a box kind of thing. I was looking for a rectangular shape wooden picture frame or something like that, but I couldn't find anything that I really liked, so this was the best option. And I am just using hot glue. I've purchased some Gorilla hot glue and it seems to be working pretty well. And I'm just using that to glue on my wood blocks. And I have also gone ahead and created a design, and it's just simple. I use Magnolia Sky font that says P.S. I love you. I did ungroup it and then move the letters a little bit closer together and then weld it when I cut it out. And then I just use this arrow as well. And then like I said, I'm gluing everything together. Now, here's where I made a little bit of a mistake. I should have put the vinyl down first and then put the frame around, the little border around. It just made it a little bit harder to put the vinyl on, but not a big deal. But if you are recreating this, it's easier to do it beforehand. As I mentioned, in Cricut, I did weld the design together, so that way when it printed, it would print and it would print together, and I could see the size that I needed. So that way I made it 8 inches wide and 4 1/4 tall, and it just fit perfectly. I did have to cut it down just because the actual vinyl part, like I said, it's because I put the border around. But anyway, if you don't put the border around, like the little frame, then you can just apply the vinyl as is. But if you don't, then you just want to cut it out so that way you can fit everything. And here's the finished piece. I am so happy with it. I think it's such a beautiful, neutral Valentine's farmhouse DIY. What do you guys think? Did I nail it? Did I nail the dupe, or is it a flop? Let me know in the comments below. The next dupe is also super easy. All you're going to need is a bamboo cutting board from the Dollar Tree. a cutout of a heart. I made a stencil with some vinyl, some white paint, and some brown paint or black paint, it's up to you, and a little bit of red paint as well. But again, you could make this however you wanted, but this is what I was using. So what I've done is I've just measured to make sure that my heart does fit on there. I did measure it before I cut it out, but sometimes when I'm doing cutouts with Cricut, it I do the measurements and then when I go back, it doesn't fit. So I'm not sure if I just do them wrong. So I'm just measuring, making sure that it fits nicely on the cutting board. And I see that it does. And then I'm going to paint out a portion of it in white using the Deco Art chalk white chalk paint. And what I'm doing is I'm just freehand painting and I'm really kind of like brushing it on so it looks like it's been scratched on there or like it's chipping off. It kind of looks aged and rustic. So really easy and very quick to paint this. And I do two coats of it because it is a white paint and I want the white to show. I didn't want the brown to show underneath. Once I apply the white paint, I go ahead and I use brown paint all around the white paint. So it kind of looks like the whites mixed in with the brown on the edges. And then I added a little bit of black into that brown espresso paint just to make it a little bit richer. If you wanted, you could paint the whole thing or stain the whole thing a dark color first and then put the white over top. I didn't want to do that. I wanted the white to kind of bleed into the paint. So I chose to do it this way. With stain, it would have been a little bit more difficult to do this, but still doable. So it's totally up to you. This is the way I went. And I did it all around the edge of the cutting board as well as any light brown parts that you can see. I did not do the back. You know that I like to repurpose my signs, kind of do them for the seasons. So I don't usually do the back of anything unless I know that it's going to be visible wherever I'm putting it. Usually with signs, you can only see one side of it. What I like about this one is it is totally customizable. You can choose to do whatever colors you'd like. Maybe you want to flip it around and do black and white rather than white and black. It's totally up to you. I'm just showing you what I've done. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of me painting this heart, but I used the deep red acrylic paint as well as a black acrylic paint. And what I did was I just put a droplet of the red right onto the heart, and then I put a droplet of the black, and I used that dabber to just go paint it all around and dab it on the edges so that it doesn't bleed and swoosh it all around the heart. Then I have this key that I bought when we went on our Disney cruise. That was such a long time ago. And it was a Mickey shaped heart. So I have a box of them. I think I got them on AliExpress. And I'm using this key as well as some rope. And I'm just wrapping the rope around the middle of the sign and then adding the Mickey key. So it's like a key to your heart. And that is all there is to this DIY. Really, really easy, super cute, and a lot of fun to be able to use my Mickey key. And I just love how neutral it is with like a little bit of that red, but that's why I wanted it to be kind of like a deep red, so it would give that farmhouse rustic look that you guys know I absolutely love. So here's the finished piece. Let me know what you think. I think it turned out great, and I think it's just as good as the inspiration. So our very last DIY is another super easy farmhouse Valentine's Day DIY, and it is this piece of artwork. For this, I found this on Pinterest, and it's again super easy. All you're going to need is one of the larger canvases from the Dollar Tree. If you don't have that, you could use a piece of cardboard. And one of these vinyl sheets, again, this is from the Dollar Tree, and it is kind of like a barn wood type of piece of vinyl. So you're going to need that and a box of the tumbling blocks and something to color the tumbling blocks. I used the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze. You can use whatever you'd like. And then also some hot glue. Now, it's very easy to cut these canvases, and all I did was use an X-Acto knife, and I made the canvas slightly smaller than the piece of vinyl, and that's so that I could wrap the vinyl around the piece of canvas. So just make sure you measure everything and try to make it as straight as possible. I used a square. Once you have cut your canvas, then you're going to want to apply your vinyl. Now the vinyl is just peel and stick, so you're going to stick it. It did need a little bit of hot glue just around the edges, and then you just want to make sure that everything is straight and that it's not wrinkled. Sometimes the vinyl does wrinkle, so you just have to be careful with that. But that's all there is to this. You may have to sand down the edges of your canvas if there's just bits and pieces, but you don't have to because you're covering them with the vinyl. And you can set that off to the side and then go ahead and stain your tumble blocks. Just count out how many you're going to need. It all depends on how big you make your canvas. So that's totally up to you and whether you're using the small ones or the bigger ones. And like I said, I'm just staining them using this decorative glaze. I always put gloves on because it does stain your hands quite a bit. So if you are using it, it's the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in Java. Just make sure that you wear gloves because it'll stain. And I'm just using a brush to apply it. And then after, I just kind of rub it in with a baby wipe. I like to do all of my painting and staining with finishing it off with rubbing it in with a baby wipe. Then I go ahead and I use some of my nautical rope to see how big I want to make this heart. So again, it depends on your board size. Just measure out two pieces that are the same length so that way you can make your heart. And again, it depends if you want your heart to be even or if you want, a little bit bigger on one side, smaller on the other. That is totally up to you. So that's what I'm doing here, just kind of measuring it out. And then I go ahead and I apply my border. The tumbling blocks that I'm using for my border and my frame, I put on top of the piece. So measuring it out to make sure that it's not too big, and then I glue it down so that I can go ahead and make my frame all around. And I don't have to worry about placing the heart once the border is there. Thank you so much for watching. Here's the finished piece. I also attached a little bit of nautical rope to the back so that I could hang it. And I absolutely love all of the pieces. Here they are together. I hope you love them too. I hope they inspire you to do a little bit of Valentine's Day decor. I got this picture. I really kind of thought this was cute. Let's potty, let the good times roll. I thought it was really cute, but I'm not going to be using it in this frame. What I'm actually going to be doing for this flip is I'm going to be flipping the frame. So I'm going to keep that Let's Potty for a different DIY, and I want to use this frame. And being Valentine's Day, I thought I'd do kind of a Valentine's Day flair to this. So in keeping with the same farmhousey look like I did with the table, I'm going to be painting this out. So the glass is pretty dirty, so I'll have to clean that out, but I'm going to clean the frame, same thing. I'm going to do the Lysol wipes just to get it nice and clean. And then I'm going to be using my two paints. So for my first paint, as you can see, I'm using the Rust-Oleum chalked charcoal paint. So it's basically just a kind of like a matte black. I love this paint. I've used it quite a bit, and I've even like tried to replicate this matte black in different projects. But I'm just painting it out, and once I get it fully covered, I let it dry. I go back and just touch it up a little bit because I didn't notice that there were spots that I didn't get, but I let it dry overnight thoroughly before I apply the white paint. For the white paint, again, I'm using the Rust-Oleum chalked linen white paint. Actually, Sandra is the one who got me hooked on this paint. She was using it quite a bit. Before this, I was using the Annie Sloan white paint, but I really like this paint. It's a little bit more budget friendly than the Annie Sloan one, only because you can get the big jug of it. So I always get the big jug at Home Depot, and I use it for a lot of my projects. So again, I'm just applying the paint. Now, obviously, with this one, I can't do too much of a random stroke because it's just a little frame. But I'm covering it nicely once, and then I'll do it again. This one I did not do sanding in between just because it didn't need it. I just make sure that you do a lighter coat. You don't want to cake on too much. Once it dried, all I did was I just lightly sanded it to get a little bit of the distressed look. So again, using that 150 grit sandpaper, I sanded, again, random spots just to get the distressed look, a little bit at the top, a little bit at the bottom. So you kind of, when you're doing this, do a little bit. Don't do a lot at once just in case you don't like it. But again, it's just paint. So if you don't like it, you can paint over it. It's not the end of the world. But in case you want to save yourself the work, you just do a little bit and then add more as you go. People often tell me, oh, I would love to paint my furniture, but I'm so scared. Well, I get it. If something is stained and then you paint it and you don't like it, you might not be able to get that same stain. But you can always, it's wood, so you can always strip it and get it back to especially if it's good quality stuff, you can get it back to its bare shape and stain it anything you wanted if you didn't like the paint. It's just a lot of elbow grease, but it's not like you've cut it up into pieces and now you can't have it back. So anyway, once you've got the distress look, then you want to put in whatever you want in your picture frame. I chose to do this Love Deeply sign just in the spirit of Valentine's Day, and then in the spirit of Farmhouse. I thought this was a really cute little picture to put in there, and I just wrote Love Deeply on my Google Drive, like in my Google Docs folder. I use that. I always call it Amanatic, but it's Amatic SC, and then for the deeply I just used a cursive font that I had, and that's it. So I just put it in here, and this project is done. Now the picture frame is one that should be hung, so I didn't have a back to it, but I just kind of you can either add a back if you wanted to. I'm probably going to be either using it in the corner on my fireplace or on a tray, so I did not add a back, but here it is. Again, nicely distressed. Love the way this one turned out too. And I believe I got this frame for 50 cents at the Dollar Tree, at the thrift store. I got it a while back because I figured we'd be going into lockdown and the thrift store was closed, and I was right. So I got this back in November. I actually got a whole bunch of stuff that I thought I could use for future projects, and I've just been saving it because we've been doing Christmas stuff. But I'm glad I did because I'll have things to work on during the lockdown. So thank you for creating a Valentine's Day sign. Now, although I'm using just a little scrap wood plank. Now these planks my husband is able to get at work for free. They come in like when something gets shipped to them, so they're part of the packaging, and they just toss them. So I told him to bring them all here because I can use them for lots of stuff. So you could always use one of the Dollar Tree signs and you just paint them out, but because we had this is free, I am using this, and it's just like I said, a little small little thin piece of wood. And what I'm doing is I am using some painter's tape to go and make like a fake frame around the piece of wood so that it gives the illusion of it being framed, and you'll see what I mean by this once I get going. So I'm just using this because this will give me the best and most straightest border. So just to give you guys ideas, if you don't happen to have a scrap piece of wood and you don't want to pick up a sign or they don't have the right size of sign at the Dollar Tree, you can always use a piece of scrap cardboard. You cut it out to the size you need, and because it is cardboard, you'll want to do like a little higher border maybe around. So what I would do is I would use some of those tumble tower blocks that you can get at the Dollar Tree. They come in a big pack, so you'll be able to use them for many different things, and just make that as your frame around. But I didn't need that for this project, so I didn't use it, but it just gives you an idea in case you don't have it and you're like, well, great, well, I can't find this, so what can I do? So again, ideas for you if you need them. Everything can always be bought at the Dollar Tree too. I think I've seen little pieces of even signs like this that you could get in the home decor department that you could just paint over, but options are endless. So in addition to the wood block, I'm also going to be using the window cling from the Dollar Tree. It's the Valentine's Day themed one. If you've watched some of my other Dollar Tree videos from Christmas, I used the Christmas themed window cling and it was great. I did a lot of different projects with it. So same with this one, I'm going to use most of the things on it in today's video. So again, at the Dollar Tree, you can pick them up right now, $1.25 here in Canada, $1 in the States, and it can give you many, many different projects. It's really versatile. It doesn't have to just go on the window. So I always use just a hair dryer to dry off the paint if I'm running out of time. So right now I was running out of time, so I'm just drying off the white paint. And I do several coats because I wanted it to be a nice white. So once this dries off, then I go ahead and I remove that tape. So you just want to make sure that this is nice and dry. That's why I use that hair dryer to kind of speed up the process. And then it gives you a nice sharp edge and it looks like there's a light border around. Now, I thought I would leave it this way, but then I decided that I wanted that frame to be a little bit darker. So I'm using the Rust-Oleum Decorative Glaze. Now again, if you don't have the glaze, you can make kind of like an espresso dark rich brown color by mixing brown acrylic paint with black acrylic paint, depending on how dark your brown paint is. Then it depends how much black you'll add. So if it's a really light one, I'd add more black. If it's a darker brown, I'd add a little bit of black just to give it that rich color, like a stain color. And you want to water it down a little bit so that you're actually just staining the wood around. So you might want to do this before you paint the middle, because then it'll be really hard to not get it all over the white part. So lots of options from the Dollar Tree if you can't get to Home Depot to get this glaze, or if you think it's too expensive, because it is pricey. I just use it for so many projects that it's worth it for me, but for one project it might be too expensive for you. So I'm just applying the glaze with a thin brush all around, being careful not to get it on the white, and then I'm going to use a rag just to blend it all in. And just to get really close to the edge, I will use some of that painter's tape just to help me stay away from the white, and I just put it on. So it's not a big deal. Even if you forgot that you wanted to paint this, you can still make it work. You just have to be very careful. And if you get a little bit of the glaze onto your paint, you can always rub it off. So like what I'm doing here, I'm just using a little wet rag to rub it off so it'll look fine. And with my stuff, I always go for the rustic look. So even when there's a little bit of paint that gets chipped, or if I've gotten too much glaze or antiquing stuff over top, it's okay for me because I love that rustic look. So I always like for things to look a little bit banged up. So this is a very easy DIY. Once you've gotten your paint and your stain on, all you have to do is apply that Dollar Tree Valentine's window cling. And I've chosen to do the little pickup truck with the hearts on it. And that's all there is to that part of it. I'm going to add some of that, some Mod Podge to the bottom and to the top of the window cling, so that way it sticks nicely. Then I've gone ahead and I've printed off Farm Fresh Valentine's Kisses. Um, I just created my own little design. I used the animatic for the top part for the Farm Fresh. Then I used just a cursive that I had on my Google Docs for Valentine's Day, and then Kisses I did that Comic Sans, and I'm just cutting it to size because I'm going to have this be like a little sign that holds a price. So really easy and inexpensive. Mm, The big the big part of this project, which is that picture of the little red truck, is from the Dollar Tree. It's that cling. It has a whole bunch of different pictures on it, so it's going to last you a long time. So this project could virtually be, under 50 cents, including the paint and the frame and everything, if you're going the scrap piece way. So once I cut off that little piece of paper, I Mod Podged it onto some cardboard just to make it be a little bit harder. And then I'm going to use that decorative glaze over top of that sign to make it look a little bit more rustic. And I'll wipe off the excess. And then I'm making sure that I also get the frame in that glaze around as well. And then I decide that I want this picture to look extra rustic, so I add more glaze over top of the picture, and it gives it that really antique look. And then to attach the little sign, I'm just using a scrap piece of jute rope, like literally a really, really small piece, and I'm cutting it in half and I'm hot gluing it to the bottom to the back side of the sign. And that is all there is to this cute sign. This is probably my favorite Valentine's DIY from this project, although I really like all of them, but this was such an inexpensive, and it could be all Dollar Tree. It could basically be pretty much all scrap except for that little red pickup truck. You could even print that off if you wanted from the internet, but I thought this was really easy to do because then it's cut nicely, and if you don't have a Cricut, and you're not into the intricate cuts, this is a really inexpensive, very cute, high-end looking sign that you can make for Valentine's Day. I'm going to be creating two little mini decorative pieces that you could probably use in your tiered tray decor. These three are actual, I think they're ornaments or something like that from the Dollar Tree. I just purchased them the week of New Year's. And they were 63 cents, so I was really excited they were half price. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be painting them out, and I'm using the other side just in case I decide to use this Christmas side for the Christmas season. I likely wouldn't keep it the way it is, although I really like the snowman one, but I might decide to keep it and tone it down a little bit or something like that. So I always like to use the back side first in case I decide that I like that side. So I'm going to be painting two of them white and one of them red. And the white, I'll just have to do two coats. So I'll just show you me doing one coat. You don't need to watch me doing two coats. For the white paint, I am using the Rust-Oleum Chalk Linen White. You'll see me using this paint quite a bit because I buy the big canfuls of them. But you could use acrylic paint if you had it. Now, my Dollar Tree, probably since about September, has not had white acrylic paint. They've had it once, and I only grabbed one bottle thinking, okay, they're going to have it back again, and they still haven't had it. So I didn't want to use my acrylic paint for this. But for the red, I did use acrylic paint. I'm using a mixture of the holiday red and the deep red. So it's just giving me a nicer shade of red. I find the holiday red is really nice for Christmas, but I wanted a bit of a deeper red. But the deep red, it was kind of a little bit more brown than I liked it to be, so I kind of did a mixture. After those dry, I'm going to go ahead and use another ornament from the Dollar Tree, which I just got again. And You don't have to use this one. You could always use that window cling. You could print off an image if they have them. I have not seen them, but I'm sure they do. They may have small little red trucks that you could use. I was actually contemplating tracing. So once I took that red truck out and put it on the sign, I was contemplating taking that window cling and using it as a stencil and painting it in. But then I remembered I had this because I had purchased this in the week of New Year's as well at 50% off, and I'm just taking it apart. So what I'm doing is I'm removing the Christmas tree, and I'm just using my hands to remove the glitter. It just comes right off. So I'm able to remove all of it, and then I'm going to be making this pickup truck, giving it a makeover. So it's going to be a Valentine's Day pickup truck. Like I said, I'm not sure if at the Dollar Tree they have Valentine's Day trucks because I did go the week of New Year's and they had just started putting out their Valentine's Day stuff. But the trick with our Dollar Tree is if you don't get it right away, you run the risk of them not having any. Actually, as I was going into the store, there was a lady waiting for the woman to unpack boxes so she could get um, um, a little red truck, pink truck board. So people are waiting. They're on those Facebook groups. They're on YouTube. They're waiting for the Dollar Tree to get all of their stuff. So I'm using the cotton candy pink again from the Dollar Tree to paint over this little red truck, and I'm just painting over the wheels and just doing a line kind of to trace around the truck, so to give it kind of like a pink outline. And I will be hot gluing this pink truck to my little board. Again, another really quick and really easy DIY. So in addition to this little red truck, I'm also going to steal some hearts from that window cling, and I'm going to Mod Podge them on to the pickup truck. So it looks like the truck is carrying hearts. Really easy, really quick, and very, very cute Valentine's Day Dollar Tree DIY. Perfect for a tier tray if you wanted it, or just a little decorative piece. It's totally up to you. And there it is. And then the window cling, like I said, it had a whole bunch of stuff on it. So I'm just taking some hearts and Mod Podging them to the sign. And then I'm going to, I don't have this on video because I did it kind of after. I'm going to take some of that cotton candy pink and I'm going to dry brush over top of the sign. So what is dry brushing? Dry brushing is when you take your brush, you dip a little bit of paint on it, and then you wipe off most of the paint, and then you just lightly brush on the paint that's left on your paintbrush. So it's very, very little paint on it. Then I use a little bit of jute rope that I've separated, and I just double knot a little piece of jute rope to that little hole, and then that one is done. And we move on to the next little sign. And this little sign, I'm going to be using all of the window cling on it. So I'm not going to be adding any dimension to it. I'm just using window cling. I was going to use the trailer, but it was a little bit too big and I didn't want to cut around it. So then I decided that I was going to use the little moped, and the moped was going to be carrying hearts. I wish that they had a little smaller version of this, or even Happy Valentine's Day smaller with the window cling, but that's okay. You could do anything you wanted on this. I just thought, well, I've already bought this Dollar Tree Valentine's Day window cling, so I might as well use it on these DIYs that I'm making for Valentine's Day. So that way I use it all up and I can start fresh next year. So I just Mod Podge the bottom and the top of this, and then I add some hearts to it, and then I dry brush pink over top of this as well. And I add the jute rope to the little hole, and that's all there is for this one. And so for the last one of these three little tier tray Dollar Tree Valentine's Day signs, I toyed around with the idea of writing February 14th on there, but I wanted it in white, and I can never do a nice clean written text with a white paint marker. So then I decided, well, I'm going to kind of cover this red, not all the way. I'm going to have some of the red showing through with that cotton pink, and then I'm going to add more window cling on it. I was going to use my Cricut, but I thought, well, I want to show you guys that you can do stuff without your Cricut and still have it look really nice, because Cricuts are expensive. I got mine for a birthday present, well, a birthday and an anniversary and a Valentine's Day present all in one because it's an expensive gift. And it's expensive, and if you're only using it here and there, it's, I mean, it is worth it, but it might not be worth it at the time. You know, there's other things we can spend money on, especially right now. So I thought, well, $1.25 window cling is a much better way to go to use for this. So what I did was there was a little sign that says "Bring the love" from the window cling. I stuck that on there too instead of February 14th, added some of the hearts to it, and that's all there is to that one. Made a little bit of a mistake. I had put the Mod Podge on, but the paint wasn't quite dry. So I had to, once it dried, I went back and I just took a little bit of red paint and I corrected the letters out. And because it was still on the window cling, if I got it off on the, not on the letters, I could still wipe it off. And because the glitter, the letters were glitter, it stuck to the glitter, but I could wipe it off the window cling. And then I just dry brushed some of the red, and I did the deep red this time, and I just dry brushed it on a little bit so it looked like it was a bit scuffed up. So here they all are. I am really happy with the way they turned out. They kind of look rustic. The pink one looks a bit scuffed up. Some of them look a little bit cleaner. Rustic, farmhousey, Valentine's, Dollar Tree DIYs are my favorite. So this next DIY is another easy DIY. This is just a nice picture frame with a heart in it. So I'm using these Dollar Tree beads that I'm going to be spray painting in the satin red from Rust-Oleum. And as you can see, I'm spray painting outside in the snow at night. Always craft at night or early Saturday mornings. So it's when I can do it. I'm not working and the kiddos are asleep. So once that's dry, or as that's drying, I've gone ahead and I've just created this little pattern on my Google Docs, and I've just used the table, like I've inserted a table, and I created these lines with two spaces in between them, and then I colored every other one just a pink color that they had on there, like a pink fill, and I'm cutting it to the size that I want. It doesn't really matter how big or how small you make it. It's really up to you. I basically, whatever the margins were, that's where I cut them. So when I created in the Word, like the Google Doc, um, I cut off the edges where it ended. And then I'm going to be framing it, so it doesn't really matter if they're not completely exactly the same cut on each side because I've cut off the white part so you can't see it. So I'm using these giant popsicle sticks for the frame. Now here's where I kind of went off on a tangent from my original plan. So my original plan was to have a white border around, like a white frame around. But these suckers, the paint on these suckers is really, really rich. So I tried covering it and I must have done about 4 coats and I still wasn't getting it. I should have painted it out black or brown or anything first, but I didn't. And I know to do this because I've had this trouble before, but I seem to always forget, or I think it's going to be fine. So I cause myself more work than I need to. So either buy the wood colored ones, they just didn't have them at the Dollar Tree, so I just got these ones. Or paint them out in like a black acrylic paint that you pick up at the Dollar Tree and then paint over it in white. So I wind up doing that, but again I made another mistake. So what I should have done is done about 2 coats of the black paint and then let it dry nice and then done my white over top, but I don't think I let it dry quite enough. And then as I added the white over top, thinking that I would, okay, we'll go for like a more rustic look, not a clean look. which is where I would have wound up anyway, but I was just thinking, well, maybe I'll want to do a more clean look and maybe I'll, anyway. This is my thought process. I'm sharing it with you because I want you to see that things, when you start things, even if you see an inspiration somewhere and then you think, okay, I'm going to do it this way, even that sometimes doesn't work out, but then you wind up with something that you like a lot better. So I painted them white, and then I decided after that I didn't like the way the white was because I found still that the paint from underneath was coming through. So as you can see, as they've dried, you can see like a little bit of the green was coming through. So I just went and I painted in that deep red over top and made it kind of look like it's a bit banged up. And then I'm just drying it with my hair dryer because I've painted it so many times I didn't want to let it dry again. So I'm going to Mod Podge the paper to a piece of cardboard. This is just from a box because I didn't have a piece of wood this width and I wanted it a little bit wider. And so I'm just applying Mod Podge to the back of the paper and to all of the corners, and then I'll do it over top. Now I won't be cutting the paper to size until I put my heart on there because I wanted to make sure that I'm getting the right size that I want after just when I see how it looks. So what I'm doing is I'm just using a stencil of this wood heart that I also got at the Dollar Tree, but that's not what I'm using for this picture. Although now looking at it here, I could have. It looks really nice. But I'm just going to use a pencil to draw around it. And that's where I'm going to be hot gluing those red beads, those beads that I painted in red. So I'm just counting out from the bottom and from the top. I'm not measuring it, I'm just kind of eyeballing where it should go. And then I'm going to draw lightly in pencil so that I can follow it. Don't make the mistake of going over top of it without, because even if you plan it out as you move them, then they kind of move around and then you run the risk of having a lopsided heart. So just follow that whatever you traced, and it'll work out that way better. And so you're just applying hot glue to one side of the piece. If you noticed, so what I did for painting these beads, I just stuck them on one of those little sticks from a balloon package. You know, those, if you get fancy balloons, the foil balloons, the little stick that comes with them. So I stuck it on there and I spray painted both sides. I didn't bother moving them around too much because I knew I'd be gluing them, but if you notice that they're a little bit off, then you can just spray a little bit of spray paint into a cup and just touch them up if you need to. So before I put my frame or cut the little cardboard, I decided that I wanted to mute that pink a little bit. And so I'm not quite dry brushing, but not quite painting on some of that cotton pink because I found that this pink was a little bit too much. I didn't like the way it looked with the red. So I'm muting that pink a little bit, being careful to just stay in the lines. And I'm drawing, like brushing off the paint on just a piece of paper towel. So just make sure you're careful to not get it on your beads or anywhere else. You could probably have done, I could have probably have done this before I put the beads on, but it's okay. It's just when I noticed I didn't like the way it looked. And because I was sort of dry brushing it on, it made the picture look more rustic. And again, this is another really quick and inexpensive Dollar Tree DIY, a Valentine's Day DIY. I really enjoy doing this one because it cost very little and I think it looks really, really cute. So after I'm done doing this, I attach those popsicle sticks as my frame. So I'm just attaching them with hot glue, and what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the amount of space between the heart and the frame is the same on each side, and I'm eyeballing it. I was going to cut these down and make them square, but then I really liked the way they looked with just stacked one on top of the other. So I'm going to just go ahead and hot glue them down, and then I cut off that cardboard, and I just cut it off with a X-Acto knife. So here's the finished piece. I've purposely left it so it looks a little bit dinged up and giving it that rustic farmhouse feeling. This DIY that I'm making next is very, very cute and very simple to make. And inexpensive. You need one of these tumbling blocks or Jenga blocks. This is from the Dollar Tree. It's one of those tumbling blocks. And I'm using my miter saw. If you have anything else that you could cut this with, you could use that. I'm using this because this is what I had on hand and I was too scared to use like a power tool because even this was a little bit scary. And what I'm doing is I actually just got it going and then I get it stuck in there and then I'm not touching it. I'm just letting it slide up and down on the miter saw so I don't cut my finger. And here I'm not cutting, I'm just doing a little slit so that way I can see where I need to go on the other side. It looks like I'm going to cut myself, but I promise I didn't. And so I just did the slit so I would know where to cut on the other side, and I'm cutting from both sides to get it to break faster. Again, if I used a power tool, it would have been quicker, but I was too scared to use it for this. Once I got that cut, I'm left with two pieces. One was a little bit thicker than the other, which is what I was going for. And then I'm just going to hot glue them together and paint them. I'm using cotton candy acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree, as well as holiday red acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree. So this is another simple DIY, sorry, and I'm painting them before I glue them together. And this is another really simple Dollar Tree Valentine's Day DIY, and you can use this in your tray. You could just use them as a little decor piece in a vignette or whatever you want, but really easy. And I'm going to attach two little beads to the top of it, a top of each piece, like one bead to the top of each piece to make them look like little people. So for this one you need that one tumbling block, some hot glue, some paint, two beads, a heart-shaped sticker or a heart shape anything, and a piece of jute rope or twine. So once they are dry, I hot glue them together. I attach the little heads to them and I tie them with the twine, and I add a little heart sticker that I had from a scrapbooking project. You could just cut out a heart from a scrap piece of paper or a sticker, or if you had any hearts left over, if you bought the window cling, you could put a window cling on a piece of cardboard and then hot glue it to these guys. But that's all there is to this one. So this literally, I think, took me about 5 minutes to do. The only thing that took a longer time, the only reason it took as long was because of the paint drying. But again, I tied them together, I stuck the little heart on, and now it looks like there is two people hugging and in love. Very, very cute in my opinion. I had to cut the heart down a little bit just to make it a bit smaller, and I hot glued everything together. And it turned out really cute. So here's the finished piece. And for the last DIY, it is probably the easiest one of all of them. All I'm doing is painting out these wood letters. Now these are not Valentine's Day wood letters. The Dollar Tree always has these letters. So I was lucky enough to find XOXO. They don't always have all the letters, or they'll have one and not more than one. But if you go there often enough, you can collect enough so that way you have it for whatever you need it for. They had just gotten a new shipment when I went, so they had tons of letters. So I actually picked up XOXO Love and Snow. So I'm just going to be painting these ones out in that cotton candy pink. I'm removing the signs on the back because I'm painting them on both sides. So I wound up doing 2 coats on each side because the brown showed through a little bit. These are really cute and they're such a nice pale pink. And to me, that pale pink and white and dinged up and all of that stuff and the glaze, it all just has that rustic farmhouse look. And these will go great in any tray. So for Valentine's Day, I like this XOXO because I purposely, what I've done is I've glued the XO and the O together. So you'll see I'm going to hot glue it together, but not the full XOXO because I wanted to be able to maybe have a little bit of height in my tray where I put one of the XOs on the higher part and then the other one just down below. And it just gives you the options, or you could do it straight across, either or. But if I hot glue them together, then that's what I was stuck with, and I didn't want to be stuck with anything. And I didn't want to wreck it if next year I decide to use it differently and then I have to redo it. Why cause yourself more work than you have to? So once I, again, as I said, once I paint them, I just hot glue the X and the O together, let it dry, and done. Well, you made it to the very end. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have an excellent day and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit that like button. Check out my other videos and head on over to Vesna TV Home or my cooking channel to get inspired on home decor or maybe some yummy, delicious recipes. Thank you. Have a great day and stay safe.